Hey there, it's Andrew, and I am bringing you a Keyforge update from the keyforging.com website and keyforgegame.com, the Master Vault app, web app. And today, the update that we received is about changes to the Master Vault. And they're pretty big and pretty exciting. And let's just get into it. So, the update is that the Master Vault is implementing deck ownership. So up till now, if you open a Keyforge deck, you get it'll have a QR code on it. I'll show part of this. So in the bottom left of the Archon card, there's a little QR code, and there's also a 15-digit alphanumeric code underneath that. And either by scanning the QR code or by manually entering the 15-digit alphanumeric code, you could discover a deck, and it would show up on your account on the Master Vault. However, that's all. Oh, and you would get an Amber Shard, but that's all that would happen. That's all it would do. Going forward, there's an additional concept on top of that called ownership that is going to actually control who can use a deck for competition. So, for example, if I want to use this deck, Emilio Modipolis Queen, to play at a Keyforge event, I'm going to have to have established ownership. And so what they've done is taken all the decks that were previously registered in our accounts. Those are in the legacy decks area. And to get something into your owned decks area, you need to actually scan it again. Now, I'll take a pause here and say it's a really good idea if you have pictures floating around on the internet of your decks with the QR code shown. It's a good idea to probably take those down, or maybe just prioritize getting those decks scanned in as owned by you, because there is a process, and we'll come back to this. There is a process for transferring ownership, but if the person who scanned the deck is not working with you, if the person who first scanned it in as owned is not cooperating, there is still a process. You're going to be able to get control of your deck, but it could just be a little more harrowing. So yeah, so for that reason, it's much better if you scan your own decks in as owned. If you're out there and you're considering scanning decks in that you don't actually own, don't. Please, you're not going to win. It's not going to help you, and yeah, it's not good. So you're just being a troll. So don't do that. If you are the owner of a deck, you should scan it in. For me, I own a lot of decks, so I'm not gonna get them all scanned in right away or possibly ever. But what I will do is get my important ones in that I know I'll use at events, and then going forward, everything will end up scanned in. Now, about yeah, that is kind of a bummer, but I think using the web app on the phone, even, it shouldn't be too bad. There's a system set up that I'll show you. Actually, I won't show you, where you can friend people. You can share decks with friends. Right now it's a unidirectional thing. You share to them, and then they also need to share to you. And yeah, anyway, I think that's fine. But yeah, so you can mark someone as, hey, this is my friend. They're allowed to use my deck, and and then it'll work fine. Okay, so there's some really cool things that are going to be enabled from this. The first is you can purchase a custom printed copy of your deck. So you can ask Ghost Galaxy, hey, I want a copy of my deck printed and sent to me, and they'll do it. If you own the deck, so you'll actually have to be established as the owner in order to submit that request. And I'm sure they'll charge for that, but hopefully it won't be too high a fee. And that way, if you just prefer to play with a copy, so there's no possibility of harming the original, that's a possibility. If you want to send a copy to a friend so they can just keep a copy and use it because you've allowed them to, then I guess that would be a pretty reasonable thing to do. Wow, that's a cool feature. That's actually a really cool feature. Yeah, that's excellent. Okay, and then let's see. So additionally, you um, you can get a deck in a different language, translated into whatever language you want. So for your non-English decks, you can get an English version, which you can then use in events. As a result of that being available, they're going to say that tournaments that have an official language are going to require decks be in that language in order to use them. So that's good. I think that'll be nice. Everybody who brings foreign language decks tends to like, hey, I'd rather proxy it if I could. Now to just have an official printed version. Okay, really good that they got all the pips from Mass Mutation and Dark Tidings recovered, because that would be a big problem if they didn't. But really excellent since they do. Okay, so and this even means that if you physically lost the deck, if you owned it or if somebody stole it from you, you can still get copies. Now, an additional feature, and then I'll come back to some other stuff because I think we'll go to the more details on deck ownership in a minute. There's an Alliance deck builder. That's pretty cool. You can do that in Master Vault and it'll show up. Now, one thing I wonder is if this will be like importable, if this will be done in a way that can be importable into other tools. I certainly hope so. And maybe this even becomes the thing, like you do this here and then you go to TCO and set and import it or something like that. That'd be pretty awesome. Okay, so let's see. Digital Amber, yeah. So we have Amber shards in our accounts. You'll still get one per discovered deck. However, yeah, I mentioned friends. You can also, yeah, these also allow you to play at events. So for big cash prize tournaments, you will have to actually spend Amber in order to be allowed in. And in so doing, you'll have to actually spend shards to get into events. That makes sense. I think that's fine. 50 shards, essentially open 50 decks per event. Might seem a little steep, but really I think if you're getting into like a big event, that's pretty reasonable. And they're giving everybody a free key to start, so that makes sense. Basically, like, hey, if you want to get into one of these events, you need to have invested in the game. You can't just buy one awesome deck and be good. I do wonder if it's interesting that you have to do this and pay a pretty high event ticket price, but maybe that'll change in the future. I don't know. Yeah, and then the other news here is that Winds of Exchange will be scannable. They say on June 5th, I think. Yeah, and Unchained decks. that's fun. So um, that's great. That's this coming Monday, right? June 5th. Yeah, that's this coming Monday, so that's not too bad. All right, a couple more things I want to show. So here is more details on deck ownership. I had some questions, and so I was going to send an email. I started looking here. Um, so from now on, when you discover a deck, it'll become marked as owned by you. But after that, but for decks that were previously scanned and you have to rescan them, that's fine. We talked about that. But it's also possible to transfer a deck. So if you want to give someone a deck or if you sell them a deck, this would be part of the process going forward, that you would need to actually transfer it in the master vault. So you would send a request to them saying, hey, I want to transfer this deck to you. They say okay, and that's kind of interesting. The user who initiated the transfer will have an amber deducted from their account for every transfer. I guess it's saying like, hey, yeah, you're transferring the deck over, so you that benefit toward getting a key to an event is transferred to. Let's see, deck ownership benefits. Yeah, so we talked about this. You can get copies, you can get translation, you can play even if it got stole, and they do have a process. If you do so, if somebody else scanning your deck, you can say, hey, I have the physical deck. This is mine, and it's hopefully what happens is the person on the other end says, okay, that's fine. You're right. If they don't respond, or if they declare say no, that's not true, then Ghost Galaxy is working on a service where you can prove it. It's interesting. I think about like a deck I've purchased where maybe I would actually have to go back and say, here's the record of me paying this person for this deck. I didn't steal it. Here's emails. That's a big hassle. That'd be a big hassle for me. It'd be a big hassle for Ghost Galaxy, so they're going to charge. They expect to charge $25 per hit for that. So anyway, it's not something you'd want to use all the time, but yeah, a good idea in any case. Okay, so let's see. That's all on deck ownership. So let me show you on Master Vault. I scanned 4 decks in, and by the way, I used my computer's webcam to do it. And in doing that, I found that like bracketing the QR code a little bit with my finger helped. Obviously, I'm doing the background removal thing, so it's messing with it, but it's a little tricky. On the phone, it's way, way easier. And in this case, I have these cards sleeved. If you unsleeve the card, it's easier to scan. But anyway, I scanned these decks in. It's nice to know I can just scan all my stuff really, because if I need to transfer something later, if I sell it, then I can, no problem. And let's see. So all that stuff is normal, but now I see here just owned decks. Legacy decks would be in a different location. So this would be all the decks I've ever scanned in. But my decks will just show the ones that I've established ownership for. Then, and because of building alliances and stuff here, I'm probably going to actually need to start favoriting some decks that I want to appear toward the top of the list. Search works fine, but anyway. And all these are on DOK as well. All right, so let me show you. I'm not going to click through to it, but if you click through to friends here, then you can type in someone's account name. You would do this name that it shows up here, and you can add someone as a friend. And then if they add decks, then you can look at their decks. Now I haven't actually done this yet, but I wanted to try the Alliance Builder, and this is a current alliance build that I've been working on, because Heart of the Forest is fun, and Heart of the Forest and Mass Mutation is funner. And let's see, I purchased this logos from a friend and purchased this disc from a stranger, and we'll call this Emilio Acrobate Bulwark. Silly Heart of the Forest NMN. And cool, so then it shows up in alliances. I can click on it, and this is nice because it actually has a reference back to the original decks. Oh, I could actually even duplicate it and say like, oh, I want to swap out the disc for something different. Wow, that's cool. I really like that. Ooh, that's great. And you can, yeah, you can keep notes on it. It doesn't have the win record, but that's fine. Yeah, that seems great. And then if you do have decks shared from friends, they would show up here in friends decks. Okay, well that's cool. This is good stuff. Oh, and this is some wild theories here, but you know, in addition to the ability to purchase copies of decks, one of the benefits of a real ownership system like this could be some kind of digital client. So, I mean, that's something that was promised back when the game was under the ownership of FFG, and I have to imagine that Ghost Galaxy would like to do that, but this establishes a way to really have ownership in a meaningful way. So I think that's a good move. Obviously, that's not the hardest problem for making a digital version. They could have made a digital version without solving that problem, but it's a really nice problem to have solved if you're going to do a digital version of the game, an official digital version. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. This is live, so you can go use it. It works really well on the phone. You just need to actually go to keyforgegame.com in your browser on your phone instead of trying the Master Vault app. So yeah, hope you enjoy that. Hope you get out there and forge some keys. Thanks.